fracking is the right thing for California, but I do take Fran Padley's measured approach to really study the issue and look a year down the road and see what the results are. We have a real shortage of water here, and if fracking is very water intensive, that's going to be a big issue. If it pollutes the water table, that's going to be a big issue. And recently, the paper had a story that what the oil companies are finding is in California, fracking is not really economically viable. But I'm not going to reject it right out of hand. I just, like I said, I really appreciate the measured and thoughtful approach that Fran Padley took, and we'll see what the results are a year down the road.
Thank you. Jackie, we'll start with you on the next question. And in many ways, this is a federal issue, but it does impact the state of California. What is your position on immigration? What type of reforms would you promote if you were elected?
A lot of times in California, we look at immigration one way as basically our farm workers, and it really is a much more complicated issue than that. You know, obviously, my parents are immigrants. I understand the big benefit that immigration brings to the United States, and what we've seen in the last few years with the tightening of immigration is not only are the farmers not getting the farm workers, but a lot of companies like Amgen are unable to get their high-tech workers. So it's a big problem across the spectrum that our immigration laws are not more thought out. I think the other interesting thing is with immigration is that we educate the children of undocumented workers, and then we send them out of the country because there's no jobs available here for them. So I think we need to really look at comprehensively at immigration reform, and we need to look at a path to citizenship.
Thank you. Mario, same question to you. What is your position on immigration?
Immigration is it is a very complicated issue, and I think when I look at immigrants, I define them in three ways. I look at a seasonal worker, someone who wants to come to the United States, work, and leave. That's a really common cause. That's a humanitarian issue for me, because when I'm out there in the fields and I'm working alongside those workers, they'll have parents who die and they can't go back to Mexico, and you know, because if they go, they can't come back, and that is really a heartfelt thing for me, and it's really something I'm very concerned about. So I think we need to immediately create a seasonal worker visa that people could come over. We could use them we could use that tax benefit. They're now being taxed, they're being treated like every employer, but then at the end of the season or at their choosing, they go back. Then there's the type of immigrant who genuinely feels that he's American, or he or she is American, and they hold the ideals that made this country great close to their heart. And so I believe that they need to be treated, they need to be given a clear pathway to citizenship, and be treated accordingly. Then, you know, there's the people who want to come to this country to sell drugs. Human trafficking has become a bigger issue. Those are the people that I believe, if they commit those crimes here, need to be immediately detained, immediately deported. But there definitely needs to be comprehensive immigration reform, and it needs to happen sooner rather than later.
Thank you. Mario, we'll start with you on the next question. And it's about prisons. There was realignment in the state recently as prisoners moved from the state system into county jails. But what is your position and any proposals you have to lower the inmate population? And also, would you consider reducing some drug felonies to misdemeanors?
I believe the way we fix our prison system is by honestly and genuinely focusing on the education system. We can enhance our education system, get more people educated, and you do less crime. And it's a long-term investment, but it's a solution to the problem. And even going to jails, and I think they do a pretty good job of this right now, but training vocationally, training them to do jobs, training them to have jobs, giving them an education while they're in prison and coming out and getting a job in the workforce and having a steady income, and therefore not being enticed to create to go and perform criminal acts. And the second part of your question was
reducing the certain drug crimes from felonies to misdemeanors.
Yes. You know, I mean, that's a tough question because there's a lot of issues that could pop up there. I mean, if it's somebody who just has a pound of weed because he wants to smoke it, I mean, you know, and do I think he should be treated like a felon? Probably not, but I mean, is he selling? What type of drug is it or whatnot? That has to be looked in more deeply, kind of on a case-by-case basis. And I believe that the sheriffs locally, the state crime board or whoever deals with those issues will make a good judgment. I trust our local officers and sheriffs to make that judgment.
Thank you. Jackie, same question to you. What is your proposal to lower the inmate population, and would you consider reducing some drug felonies to misdemeanor?
I did want to clarify on the last immigration question. I said look at immigration reform. I'm absolutely in support of immigration reform, and I'm in support of the path to citizenship, so just wanted to make that stronger statement. Realignment has been really a difficult issue because obviously we were forced into it. The prisons were overcrowded, and Governor Brown tried everything he could do to keep the prisons overcrowded. But eventually the courts decided that the solution was to let inmates go and go down to the local level. In a lot of ways, that's a better way to deal with these criminals. Let the local sheriff work with the behavioral health department to find ways to reduce recidivism, look at what type of inmates are least likely to commit crime again. And you can best deal with that at the local level. I think the big problem with realignment is that the state, where they spent, let's say, $1 on each prisoner, the local jurisdictions got 70 cents. So I think it's very important to fully fund the effects of realignment to make sure that the sheriff and groups like behavioral health have enough money to provide the social programs to prevent recidivism. And you do have to identify those people that are most likely to recommit, and a certain percent of the population just has to stay in jail, because it really does become a quality of life issue, even with these petty crimes.
Well, you've all been doing, or both have been doing a very good job. We've been hitting you with question after question, and I have many more. But I thought, let me just take a moment here. We have a very interesting question. Let you catch your breath. And just tell us, what do you feel is the most important issue in the 44th Assembly District? So Jackie, we'll start with you. What do you feel is the most important thing facing the district?
Do you think this is a restful question? The 44th Assembly District is a really interesting district. Obviously, I come from the very conservative, wealthier part of the district, and you have all the way to Oxnard, which has a lot of completely different issues. I've tried to spend a lot of time in Oxnard, meeting with elected officials there, and talking about what the issues are in that area. And in some ways, they're facing the same things that areas like Thousand Oaks and Camarillo and Moore Park are facing, but kind of a different direction. I think the biggest issue is education, and that is the biggest issue at the state level. Obviously, we would like to increase our educational outcomes, and even though extra funding doesn't fix everything when you're at 48th or 47th in spending on education, that's a big problem. It's been very interesting to see what the governor did with the local controlled funding formula, which is basically that areas like Thousand Oaks are getting less money and areas like Oxnard are getting more money, and they have total discretion on how they're going to spend it. And it's going to be a great experiment to see how do local school districts feel like they can improve educational outcomes. And what we will be able to learn from that information, we can send to other school districts. So it's a great social experiment right now, and I think education funding and emphasis on education is moving in the right direction.
Thank you. Mario, same question to you. What do you feel is the most important issue facing the 44th?
I would agree that this district is very comprehensive of all the state issues put into one. There's a lot of issues, whether you're in Oxnard or Thousand Oaks, they both have their separate issues, but it encompasses a lot of the same issues that the state faces. That's jobs, that's education, and then specific to this district, water and labor are huge, huge issues. A lot of jobs in this district are related to agriculture, and water, not being able to give the farmers water. I know there was a 20% reduction that they have decided to cut back on in order to save this, to save their farms. But in addition to that, when I was talking to Rob Roy of the Ontario County Ag Association, and I asked him, what's the biggest problem facing agriculture today? He said, it's not water, it's labor. So labor is obviously a big issue, but in regards to this district, jobs and education have to be a priority, and we have to focus on those at the state level.
Okay, thank you. Mario, we'll start with you on this next one. It's somewhat more about tone. One of you is a Republican, one of you is a Democrat. So tell us, what do you intend to do when you're in Sacramento? Will you be more moderate or will you be more partisan with your party? Mario, we'll start with you.
Republican and Democrat, it's an issue that I believe while you're in government should be irrelevant. We're here to help people. I think both Jackie and I, our intention is to help people, regardless of party and regardless of party preference. And when we're in government and when we're elected officials, that's what it's about. You no longer should identify yourself as a Republican or a Democrat. You should go there to help people, help the people of the 44th District and help the people of the state of California. And that's how I plan to do it. I wouldn't vote on an issue just because it was a major Republican issue, but it would hurt the state of California if I truly felt that way. So no, to me it's about helping, it's not about party, and that's the way I plan to serve.
Thank you. Jackie, same question. Can you share your thoughts about partisanship and how you intend to serve?
Well, I come from a very interesting situation. I've been a nonpartisan a Democrat in a very, very Republican area, and I've managed to get a lot done by working with Republicans, which is all I was surrounded with was Republicans. And this district is a very moderate district, so I think that it is best served by somebody that has more moderate viewpoints, and that's the type of person that's going to get elected. But on core social values, I am completely a Democrat. I think where I would say that I am more in the moderate area is on fiscal issues, and that's kind of where I see many Californians are, socially more moderate and fiscally conservative, and that's exactly the way that I've governed in Thousand Oaks. And we've been able to be very environmentally forward and at the same time run a very fiscally sound city. But it is crucially important that we stop these partisan fights when we're up in Sacramento. And so just as I've been able to work with Republicans and Democrats at the city level, I will be doing the same thing at the state level.
Okay, thank you, Jackie. And we'll start with you on this next question. What would you do to support small business in California?
That is an interesting question. Obviously, my experience comes again from my work in Thousand Oaks, and I mentioned earlier in my introduction that Thousand Oaks is a very business-friendly city, and how have we been able to accomplish that? We're a very low sales tax city, and we don't have things like gross receipts tax or utility user fee. And we've also really reached out in partnership with our chamber to work with the different businesses and see what type of roadblocks are being put in front of businesses. I've gone on a number of business visitations. I've talked to companies about what the issues they are facing. And sometimes we've brought staff in, or sometimes we've brought the utility companies in to make sure that they're able to operate in a way where we're not putting unnecessary roadblocks in the way. California is never, frankly, going to be an inexpensive place to do business, but it is very important that we don't put unnecessary roadblocks in the way of small business, and it is very, very important that we have a well-educated workforce. So I don't have the magic solution, but certainly if we look at some of the things we've done in Thousand Oaks, it is a very job-rich city, 70,000 jobs in a population of 128,000. Last year alone, we added an additional 800 jobs, and we're looking at attracting additional companies, but that's by working cooperatively with businesses and with the chamber to reduce roadblocks.
Thank you. And Mario, same question to you. What would you do to support small business in California?
There's a lot I would do to support small business in California. Personally, I own a small business, and the great thing about being an insurance agent is I have the ability to go to other businesses and try to help them and learn a lot about their issues. So, some of the biggest issues that especially in the agribusiness that they face is overregulation, and it is a very, very regulated industry. In addition to that, a tax burden. Workers' comp is going up 30% every year. The Affordable Care Act has been implemented on them, and so now they're looking at how do they afford that extra cost and how do they develop that extra revenue in order to afford that. So one of the most exciting things that I see about helping small businesses is, like Jackie said, I don't have a magic solution. But what we do have as legislators, the ability to walk into the door of a small business and say, what is it that's hurting you and how can I help you? And we may not have the answers, but they definitely do. And that's the one thing I look forward to doing is being able to go into a business and say, I want to help you, how can I do that, what's hurting you, and how can I change that? And that's what I plan to do.
Okay, thank you. We have several questions on education, and since that takes up so much of the budget, we should cover these. Mario, we'll start with you. How has your experience in higher education informed you about the value of public funding for higher education?
Education is the number one issue that I think we should focus on. It is the best investment that this state can make to help people, to help the economy, to make this place, not only California, but the world a better place. I think we should absolutely help people get a higher education. I think we need to focus through K-12 in order to train them to go to colleges. I think we need to provide the financial resources to help those who are less fortunate to get a college education. We need to make it more affordable. We need to do everything we can and to make not only higher education affordable, but more accessible, and give everybody the ability to get it and contribute to society.
Thank you. Jackie, same question. How has your experience in higher education informed you about the value of public funding for higher education?
I think everybody understands that education is the great equalizer, and it is the #1 priority in the state. The big problem with education, higher education in California, is that the funding is not protected. Prop 98 only protects K-9 and then the community colleges. So when you look at Cal State Channel Islands, they haven't had full funding in the last 10 years, which is not a great way to grow the state. Education, the Cal State system and the UC system, what they are providing California are the great innovators. They're providing the business builders, and it's absolutely crucial that we support them. And again, they are making sure that we have a highly educated workforce, and that's something that makes us more attractive to businesses. Again, we're not an inexpensive place to do business, but if we have a well-educated workforce, then I think that we can certainly build our small businesses that way. Yeah.
You're set? Okay. We got lots more for you.
Yeah, well, I actually, some of the big issues I think with the UC education is we really need to expand. Right now, the promise of the UC education was that the top 12% of the students would be accepted, and we have gone way down from that level, accepting a number of out-of-state students. So we really need to recommit again to the Cal State and the UC system.
Thank you. And we'll stay with education. Jackie, we'll start with you. And there are really two questions here I'm going to combine. The first one is, do you believe that the local control funding formula is good for California? I guess not. Are you both familiar with that? Okay, very good. I don't know it, so helpful that you know. I think local control funding is just more about how the governor's proposal to try and move more money into the school districts so that they can make decisions. So the two questions. Do you believe that the local control funding formula is good for California? And do you support comprehensive sexuality education in the public schools? Jackie, we're starting with you.
I talked a little bit about the local control funding formula. It's obviously not without its controversy. Districts like Moorpark and the Conejo Valley are not back to their full funding level. So when you talk about the local control funding formula, the money that is going to those wealthier districts is not bringing them up to the level that they should be. So obviously in that there are at least short-term losers. But again, the intriguing thing about the local control funding formula is in the areas where there are English language learners and foster kids, a very large number of those type of kids, those school districts are going to be getting additional funds. They have to come up with a plan for those additional funds, and then they have to carry it out, and then at the end of the year they have to report back and see how successful they were with those educational outcomes. And to me, it is a great experiment. Does it help to lower class size? Does it help to have an additional aide? Does it help to have an additional hour of schooling? We can find all those things out, and the formulas that work we can use in other school districts. So I think it's a great idea to start moving things in the right direction, but I do hope that the funding will be accelerated. We shouldn't be punishing the school districts that don't meet those criteria.
Okay. Mario, same question to you. Do you believe that the local control funding formula is good for California? And do you support comprehensive sexuality education in the public schools?
I believe local control funding is a good thing for California. If we could give more, not necessarily more funds,